like fries for that? Would you like fries for that? Would you like fries for that?
'Tis the season to be scary. Today's 10-minute bracket, we are going to attack the greatest 80s, 90s slasher film of all time. I'm Ben Lewis. We've got 10 minutes. Let's get going. So here's how the seeds break down today. In the 1 seed, we have Friday the 13th. In the 2 seed, we have Nightmare on Elm Street. In the 3 seed, we have Scream. In the 4 seed, we have I Know What You Did Last Summer. In the 5 seed, we have Halloween. Yes, controversial early. 5 seed for Halloween. Very controversial. In the 6 seed, we've got Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In the 7 seed, we've got Child's Play. And in the 8 seed, we've got Candyman. So we're going to start off in
Round 1.
Friday the 13th versus Candyman. Let's get a little rundown of each. Friday the 13th came out in 1980. This movie solidified the summer camp / isolated location as the default slasher setting. It's one of the most profitable films ever made relative to its minimal budget. And for the reveal at the end, and let me preface this by saying, obviously, this is a spoiler warning because we're doing a reaction podcast to movies that we've already seen. So if you haven't seen Friday the 13th or any of the movies we're going to talk about, I would say turn off the podcast, come back to it later. But for the reveal to be Jason's mom, Mrs. Voorhees, at the end was a huge deal. First off, in the 80s, but second off, think about it this way. So I was not allowed to watch scary movies whenever I was younger, but I was aware of Jason. So, we'd go to school. Everybody talks about Jason. You got the hockey mask, you got the knife or whatever. You see the Halloween costume. So by the time I actually watched Friday the 13th, I think I might have been 12 or 13, which is like 92, 93. So I'm watching the whole movie and I'm like, when is Jason coming out? When is Jason coming out? And then to find out in the end it's his mom, that blew my mind. And then once I got over that, this movie did one of the things that started the jump scare final scene in all scary movies going forward, when they had little Jason Voorhees jumping out of the water to attack the girl at the very end. So first my mind was blown because it was the mom. Then my mind was blown again whenever Jason hops out of the water. So in the 1 seed, Friday the 13th. Now it's contender in the 8 seed, Candyman from 1992, a budget of 8 to 9 million, and it grossed 26 million. So not a huge grossing film, but this was one that had some traction in the 90s. I mean, it didn't really carry over. I don't hear much about it. I know they had I don't know if it was like a remake or like a sequel or like a throwback to Candyman that came out here recently. But it did have, somewhat of a social commentary. It was a rare slasher that addressed themes of race, class, and the cycle of violence in inner city Chicago. The monster was a sophisticated, gothic, and romantic type character with a heartbreaking origin story. This was based on a short story by horror master Clive Barker, lending it a literary, darker quality. The monster's existence is directly tied to the community's belief in the urban legend, highlighting the power of the myth. So there were deeper things to it. I mean, everybody heard about, whenever I was little, you hear about Bloody Mary and whatnot, and Candyman was kind of like the same thing. So in round 1, first contest, we got the 1 seed, Friday the 13th versus Candyman. The winner of this contest, moving on to round 2, is going to be Friday the 13th. Now let's attack the 2 seed, Nightmare on Elm Street, versus the 7 seed, Child's Play. Oh gosh, Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm still not a fan of these. First off, let me also make sure you guys know, I'm not a scary movie person. I'm not going to go watch these new ones. The smiley face one, the ring one, and all this stuff. So like scary movies, this is about as close as I get. Not a big fan, but it is Halloween. So that's why we're taking care of this right now. 1984, budget of $1.8 million, grossed $57 million. Introduced the supernatural killer Freddy Krueger who attacks victims in their dreams, reviving the flagging subgenre. Now, the rule in this was, if you die in your dream, you die for real, forcing teenagers to stay awake. The film's immense success essentially saved and built New Line Cinema, earning it the nickname The House That Freddy Built. Freddy's wisecracking dark humor and his personality set him apart from silent killers of the era, and also, it marked the debut of Johnny Depp, getting killed in his bed. But the thing that I remember the most about this is obviously the glove with the, knives on the end of it that everybody had during Halloween. I remember kids going home and taking their batting gloves from baseball practice, cutting popsicles in half down the middle, wrapping them in duct tape, and then taping them to the glove, and then coming to school like they had a Freddy Krueger glove. So Nightmare on Elm Street had multiple sequels as well. You ended up having a Freddy versus Jason at some point. So, huge franchise. The next is Child's Play. 1988, had a budget of $13 million, grossed $44.2. It introduced the killer doll, folks. So, Megan, you're not the first one. It revitalized the genre by introducing the concept of a slasher villain in the form of a haunted doll. It relied heavily on complex and costly animatronics and puppetry to bring the title character to life. It created the killer's persona being transferred into a doll using voodoo, blending modern consumerism with black magic. And also, that little doll was creepy. It looked like a My Buddy doll. So, if you remember My Buddy, my sister had a My Buddy. So then after I realized that Chucky was, essentially a My Buddy doll, I think that either Chucky killed off the demand for a My Buddy doll, or it made it more popular. And I don't have the answer to that. That's an unanswerable question for me. It definitely made you look at dolls like My Buddy and Kid Sister in a different light. And that little doll's voice was so creepy. But let's see. We've got to have a victor. Freddy versus Chucky. I mean, we're going to have to go with Freddy on this one. So Freddy and Nightmare on Elm Street advanced to round 2. Now, we're going to take on the 3-seed Scream and the 6-seed Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So Scream came out in 1996, had a budget of $15 million, and it grossed $173 million. And it single-handedly revived the slasher film genre by self-referentially deconstructing and satirizing the slasher tropes it used. It was very self-aware. The characters are explicitly aware of the rules, quote-unquote, of horror films, using them both to survive and to execute the murders. The Ghostface mask was introduced and is instantly iconic. You still see Ghostface masks today. I don't know if it's more popular than Jason's hockey mask, but the two have to be tied. The Freddy Krueger glove has kind of died out. You don't see that as much anymore. But if you go into any Walmart, Target, Halloween store, you're going to see two things: a Scream mask and a hockey mask. It brought back the whodunit mystery element that had been shifting away from these kind of movies. I mean, ever since Friday the 13th, the original one, that was more of a whodunit whenever you figured out that it was Jason Voorhees' mom. But then it was the rest of them, you knew it was the guy with the scissor hand or, the psycho doll or whatever. So, there was no mystery to it. But this one brought back the whodunit element and successfully blended established horror talent Wes Craven with a cast of popular 90s television stars. Scream is one of my all-time favorites. I'm not trying to foreshadow anything. I'm just saying it is. All right. So that is our 3-seed. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is our 6-seed. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, had a budget of $80,000, grossed $30.9. This was in a faux documentary style. It used gritty, raw, unpolished style that made the horrific events feel intensely real and immediate. It revolved around a grotesque, dysfunctional cannibal family A commentary on the breakdown of the traditional American family, essentially, is what they were looking for. And it was loosely inspired by Ed Gein, which is kind of relevant right now because you've got Jax from Sons of Anarchy playing Ed Gein on the Netflix movie. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. I won't be, but enjoy if you want to. It had a gore impact. Despite its reputation, the film implies most of the violence relying on atmosphere and sound designed for its terror. And then its bad guy, Leatherface, created the template for the hulking masked silent killer, distinct for using a power tool as a weapon. So in this contest, we're putting Leatherface up against Ghostface, and the victor is going to be Ghostface from Scream. Ghostface Scream is moving on to the second round, defeating Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And now the final contest of the first round. We have 4 seed I Know What You Did Last Summer versus the 5 seed Halloween. Okay, so I Know What You Did Last Summer came out in 97, so 1 year after Scream. Had a budget of $17 million, grossed $125.3, so that was good as well. It was considered the post-Scream boom. So, like, a lot of movies like this came out after, but this was the first one that came out after Scream. It was a key film in the late 90s. There was a boom of teen-oriented, high-budget slashers that followed Scream. This leveraged a cast of popular young TV film stars like Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr. The bad guy is called the Fisherman. He features a memorable hook weapon in a distinct rain slicker costume. The plot centers on a teenage cover-up and the guilt that haunts them, a nod to a more Hitchcockian thriller rather than pure fantasy. The Hook legend popularized the urban legend of the Hook as a killer's signature weapon for new generation of slashers. In case you don't remember, the kids accidentally hit somebody. They go over the ledge. They decide, let's never talk about this again. Their guilt is haunting them first, and then the fisherman starts killing people. So this is I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was just recently redone, and this is one I will watch because it just came out on Netflix. So I will be checking out the new I Know What You Did Last Summer. The contender in the 5 seed is Halloween. Halloween came out in 1978, had a budget of $300,000, and it grossed $70 million. This is the template setter, widely credited as the film that formalized the slasher genre's tropes and launched the 80s boom. Michael Myers, an embodiment of pure evil, is terrifying precisely because he has no motive or personality. He's just killing to kill. It established Laurie Strode, which was played by Jamie Lee Curtis, as the prototype for the resilient, virtuous final girl. You see that with Neve Campbell in Scream. You see that with Jennifer Love Hewitt in I Know What You Did Last Summer. The imagery of Michael Myers being undeterred and unreasonable and stomping around with his William Shatner mask on and a knife running after Jamie Lee Curtis for absolutely no reason is something that still haunts people today. So even though I want to go with I Know What You Did Last Summer, I have to go with Halloween as the victor in this first round, sending Halloween on to the second round.
Round 2.
We'll have 1 seed Friday the 13th versus 3 seed Scream. We'll have 5 seed Halloween versus 2 seed Nightmare on Elm Street. We'll start with the 2 seed versus the 5 seed. So we're going to be going Freddy versus Michael Myers. And at this point, we're just going to analyze the main antagonist and determine which ones we think would actually win in some type of battle, okay? So you've got Freddy, who's terrorizing people through their dreams. Then you've got Michael Myers, who is just a psychotic killer with no purpose or reasoning. Michael Myers would have to go to sleep for Freddy Krueger to attack him. And even if Michael Myers did go to sleep, I feel like you have to have some type of good in you to allow Freddy Krueger to attack you in your dreams as far as these movies go. So I'm going to say that Michael Myers could beat Freddy Krueger in a scary person battle, sending Halloween at the 5 seed into the championship round. And now we have the 1 seed Friday the 13th versus the 3 seed Scream. So you've got Jason versus Ghostface. Which, spoiler alert again, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, but I'm about to spoil it right now. Ghostface is a bunch of crazy kids. So, in Friday the 13th movies, you've got Jason chasing after a group of kids. In Scream, you've got a group of kids that are killing other groups of kids. I think that Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich could take out Jason Voorhees. I get how extremely controversial that is, but I believe they could take him out. When Matthew Lillard delivers the line, "Liver alone," get it? Liver alone? I mean, that's, how are you going to beat that? How are you going to beat that, Jason? I don't think Jason's beating that. So, in the second round, we've got Scream advancing to the championship round, taking out the 1 seed Friday the 13th.
Championship round.
So our championship round is Scream versus Halloween. You've got the movie that set the par in Halloween from 1978, and then you've got Scream that reset it in 1996. And folks, this is my podcast, so this is purely my decision, and you can disagree all you want. But if I'm going to sit down and watch one of these movies, the movie I want to watch is 1996 Scream. So our champion today is Scream. This has been 10-Minute Brackets Scary Movie Edition. I am Ben Lewis. I appreciate you listening. If you agree, awesome. If you don't agree, awesome. But here's the deal. There can only be one champion.